This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Hello, Judge.
Yes, sir.
All right. We all be is under have on once again the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. In the words of Duke Ellington, he is truly beyond category, a true people's champion, and grassroots advocate for common sense. How you doing today, sir?
I'm fine, young brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's a bad, bad world. I keep on thinking about what you say, bread and circuses, man. It's like on steroids. What's going on right now?
Yeah. And the bad part about it is when the news media becomes part of the circus act, this 24/7 news format is bad for the country because there's not that much news, and they try to turn it around into entertainment, which is the whole purpose. And have you ever heard of this genre of book or movie called historical fiction?
Yes, sir.
It's set in a time and place that actually existed, but it's fiction. It's just based on reality. And that's what the news media is about these days. It's fiction. Based on reality, historic fiction, short term. Very little to do with accuracy, but a whole lot to do with what is most entertaining. And then the news format is set up so that there is a bonus for it being made most entertaining. And as with any one thing, if you're trying to convey facts, you have options as to how you characterize those facts, and they usually take the most entertaining option. And by that, I don't mean, oh, wow, we whoopee type stuff somebody might have looking at a comedy movie or a sitcom, but in terms of drama, tragedy, or whatever, they want to play it for all it's worth. That's like Oprah. You know, when you get an Oprah thing, her thing for all the time she's been on is to generate this catharsis in our audience where everybody gets a good cry. The girls get to cry. They like to go to movies and do this stuff. I think it's tedious, but they like to cry. So it's that kind of thing. And we've got some bad points out there. We were talking earlier, and I think we need to touch on that right off the bat. Is this thing with Rosie O'Donnell?
Oh, Roseanne Barr?
Right? Yeah, not Rosie O'Donnell, Roseanne.
They almost the same. I can see how you get them confused, though. I can see that.
They kind of look alike.
Right.
Roseanne Barr, you know, I'm going to compare it to something. They are all up in arms, or they're trying to make a big thing out of this white woman that claimed she was black and got in trouble for welfare fraud, I think it was.
Yeah, Rachel Dolezal.
An NAACP chapter president. Well, to tell you the truth, the pictures of her look much more like a black woman than this person I was surprised to discover was a black woman. I mean, we come in all shades and configurations, and part of that's because they used to have this old time rule that if you had any known ancestry, guess what you were considered to be?
Black.
Now, for be that as it may, I'd always thought it was a white woman. To be frank, I didn't get it at first, and then, I can understand somebody talking about it as racist, but to me, we're on some very thin ice here because you have to understand this parable. What is it? What goes around comes around.
Yes, sir.
Sauce for the goose, sauce for the gander, and I just happened to have checked out the comedy channel, for the last several nights. Just caught it, and some of the stuff black comedians say about white folks, I can see that being shoved right down their throats. Or some of the stuff that, we use Twitter, and you've seen some of that stuff, some of the people put on there who were trying to be, resurrect the concept of being a militant black.
Right.
It looks kind of quaint to me because it sounds like 1967 or 66 when they were just getting fired up with that. And sort of been there, seen that, done that, heard that, and moved on. But some people want to act like, they're going to try to revise and not miss out on getting the opportunity to be militant. And some of the things they say are a lot more inflammatory than what Roseanne Barr came out and said.
Yeah.
I mean, they use all sorts of negative inferences against white folk. That's their business. But be careful if you get to cheering too much and see, you have to look at what is another possibility. She was a Trump supporter, and a lot of the media can't stand Trump.
Yeah.
And they might be willing to sacrifice her, a white woman, in order to start coming down on some of what, let's say, some of the more extreme posters on Twitter that are on the black side are putting out there. I ran into it myself. I said something like, much respect and services appreciated to all of the veterans, those who made the supreme sacrifice when young, those who passed on in old age, who, defended the republic, exemplifying the land of the, home of the brave thing. And I got some very negative responses from some that want to be militants, talking about what's wrong with me. Some dude said, I wish I was there, Joey. I'd strong arm you, old granddad, for putting something out like that. And quite frankly, what I tweeted back was, look, if I were you, I'd be careful. You might have an old man kicking your ass, Show some respect for your elders. And then this fool wanted to badmouth Thurgood Marshall, and I put him down for that. One or two people came up in support, and he wanted to talk about them, and was like, where in the hell is he going? There are a lot of black folk that are vets. They learned the art of war, so to speak. So even if nothing else, they were warriors at one time, a lot of them. So pat them on the back. This isn't a Vietnam thing. So we've got a lot of stuff out there. Some of the language that was exchanged a lot worse than what Roseanne Barr was doing. So I was just saying, this is going to get a mess. I saw a thing that I did consider quite racist. There was a case in there where somebody that was one of these neo-skinhead Nazi types put in there using the N-word, and some sister set him out, called him a redneck racist, and Twitter suspended her tweets for a week.
Wow.
And just told this guy to take his down. See, so we depend on these means of media communication, but we unfortunately don't have the infrastructure to operate them at their core. So we run the risk of getting shut off on that type of communication. I'm not saying back off. It's just don't start gloating, because I have a sneaking suspicion the Roseanne Barr thing was just a setup.
Mm-hmm.
He's a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, so should we be about censorship, or should we protect freedom of expression or free speech?
Well, I don't like censorship. Mm-hmm. I think the country is getting too damn thin-skinned anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen college kids come whining to me about something. I said, well, if you're that offended, why don't you just bust the dude in his mouth?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. I said, you just sound like a punk. Teacher, he called me a bad word, What's wrong with you? Is that offensive? Go take some action. I didn't say that, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Without saying. But we whine about everything. It came to mind, there was this thing where they had this Black History Week, so the BSU at this particular Ivy League school wanted a black menu. So they had some Southern white guys that were there, and they put together a Southern menu. They had watermelon, red soda water, barbecue, fried chicken.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. And these bourgeoisie little Negroettes were all upset because they did that.
Okay.
Like, what the hell, fool? That's what they do.
Right.
So when you getting upset, they weren't trying to cast a slur on you. They just asked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like you want to talk about white folk, go ahead and talk about them. They want to talk about us, go ahead and talk about us. You got the First Amendment. Be strong. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Well,
put it back. Everybody wants to see. I kind of like Trump for that.
Mm-hmm.
Changing the paradigm. For the last 30, 40 years, every time somebody says something about somebody that's true, the next day they have all of these profuse apologies because they offended somebody. No. Tell them, you son of a bitch, to hell with you. You're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you're full of it. Somebody needs to be able to do that, because a lot of folk need to be told that. But I don't like it when somebody's ears are too delicate.
Yeah.
And the other problem we have, man, is we get on the radio, on television, in the movies, and we get to using the N-word like, it's like air. Let's breathe air,
Mm-hmm.
So what do you expect?
I mean, I keep on thinking about when you said all that. I'm thinking about, could Lenny Bruce exist in a world like this? Could somebody like Lenny Bruce be saying the stuff he was saying 50, 60 years ago? Would he have any type of career? That was arresting him back in the day, but would he be able to exist at all in a climate like this?
He came through UCLA and spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what he said then would be, typical comedy routine now. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to deal with this. I was looking at something that we're talking about Harry Truman the other day on the History Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry Truman's daughter was a singer.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave this concert, and a critic badmouthed her. So Truman called him up from the White House and told him he was going to come over there and kick his ass for talking about his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the Secret Service should take him over there, and he's at the front door. Bring your ass out here. And that's why they call him Give Him Hell Harry. He said, you can go straight to hell. I don't give a damn. You talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of perspective. Speaking of which, I don't have any problems with Harry Truman. He's the one that signed Executive Order 1981 that integrated the armed services.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting what he did. He had this report on his desk. It was 1947. And the 332nd, that's the Red Tails, the Tuskegee Airmen, had just won the second national fighter competition for the Air Force in Reno, outside of Reno.
Mm-hmm.
He won it in 46. So he's got all these generals in there begging him not to sign this because they said that the Negroes didn't have what it took. And he says, well, then how the hell did these Negroes whip your butts for the second year running? So he found out that they wouldn't even invite the black pilots inside the hotel where they were giving out the awards in Reno, so he invited all of them to the White House.
Wow.
And then another thing he did, just talking about background on stuff, he was the first president ever to address a meeting of the NAACP. And he called a meeting in D.C., and he was behind in the polls, and he told everybody, he said he saw no reason, no earthly reason why anyone, whatever their race was, should be treated differently than anybody else, and he was going to do every damn thing he could to change that. So they thought he was going to lose. He was running 20-some points behind in the polls before the election.
Mm-hmm.
They even had newspapers out on the East Coast claiming he had been slaughtered in the election, but it turned out he won.
Oh, yeah. Against Thomas Dewey, right?
Yeah, against Thomas Dewey, who was the New York mayor, made a good name for himself as this muckraking prosecutor. And by the way, I reiterate my statement. I do not trust career prosecutors 2 feet.
Right.
They have been too much into wielding too much power, and power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So they're somewhere between absolutely corrupted and just corrupted.
I mean, he failed. I mean, I guess he run twice for President Thomas Dewey.
Yeah, he did.
And he lost twice. So I guess there is a lesson to be learned.
Yeah, but we've got people on the national level that are shuffling around trying to position themselves to run for president in 2020. One of them's Kamala Harris out of California.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not too happy with something that on her watch she was responsible for. Somebody embezzled $12.5 million from a number of celebrities and athletes, including myself. And it took her lazy office about 4 years, to get around to prosecuting the person. And then they gave them, for embezzling $12.5 million, they got 5 years with 4.5 years suspended. They were supposed to serve 6 months and make restitution of $250,000 on $12.5 million. And what happened is the defendant wound up sitting on a bench outside of intake for 5.5 hours and told to go home, and that's all they had to do for $12.5 million. That was on her watch. And then when she became California Attorney General, there were too many hotshot, important types that should have been prosecuted that didn't, who made campaign contributions when she decided she was going to run for U.S. Senator. So I don't like that. That's not good, but I just put that out there because I can see there being a big mess behind that coming up.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway,
I gotta ask you about what's going on in Georgia with the Stacey Abrams. She won a primary. She might quite possibly become the first black woman governor of any state in the union. Do you know anything about her?
I don't. And my opinion right now is considering the state of affairs, we need some manhood running some things. I'm sorry to say that, particularly in our community. You look at the 20-year anniversary of the Black Million Man March, and you don't see any black men. You know, Black Lives Matter. It's 3 black lesbians formed that. You have, and it's a dodge for LGBT, or what do they call it? GLAAD, GLAAD.
Mm-hmm.
See, you have all of this going on, and it's just bad ideation for all of these young males who need a boost to be men. There's nothing there. They see everything run by women, and that's very poisonous for our communities, which is why we have so much hell in the inner cities. There's no paternalism there, no masculinity, no man training, no socialization and acculturation to be men, and the imagery they have is bad. Speaking of which, GLAAD, GLAAD, is demanding that the studios show that 50% of all superheroes in all of these Marvel films be depicted as gay.
Mm.
And they've done that with this one sneakily. I mean, it's their business to do what they want to do, and more power to them if they get the means of propaganda, which they have. But this Deadpool thing, they're running around congratulating each other for having the first gay superhero and the first lesbian superhero to make it big on film, Wonder Woman. So they want 50% of all superheroes remade into gay.
I know. Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know about you, but I don't think 50% of the population is that way. It's their business, but
Well, not yet anyway. The way things are going. All this programming and the other stuff they're doing, that we're not aware of because we're too busy trying to figure out when Drake gonna go off on Pusha T, the rapper beef, and you got all the NBA finals. Is LeBron better than Michael Jordan? Who's the greatest? And all this crap that don't really matter at the end of the day because, like you said,
that's bread and circuses.
Exactly.
Circuses were the gladiatorial contests and entertainments that they had. So we're more in the entertainments in modern day gladiatorial contests than we are into reality.
Let me ask you this. I got to ask you this because I think it's fascinating with the NFL. Say they're going to find players who kneel during an anthem. I mean, they're actually going to find players who, trying to express themselves in a peaceful protest. I mean, what are your thoughts about the NFL going that route?
They get to be courageous and go tell everybody to go to hell and go do it anyway. Take the fine. And by the way, the overwhelming majority of the players in the NFL are black. Now, if you got to get rid of 3/4 of your team or 2/3 of your team, what's that going to do?
That's true, but also I'm thinking of the fact that a lot of these players, they end up broke after 5 years after retirement.
But how are you going to have an NFL season if you're getting rid of 2/3 of your players? They aren't into this conditioning to go both ways like they used to 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think that's the thing. Like Kaepernick, you had a few players that participated, but like Kaepernick, a lot of them guys end up getting blackballed too. They're the ones who participated.
Well, I mean, that's what makes it a hero. If you don't sacrifice anything, you haven't sacrificed anything.
I hear what you're saying, Judge. Well, the Jets.
I admired. We need to back up the young brothers, but I can't get people to. Man, I got to get the game. Why are you looking at it, man? I want to see what happens, man. I said, as a matter of fact, it looks like only the Jets are going to back the players up.
That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. Yeah, but why did the owners just say we ain't gonna do this? They got a right. I mean, Jackie Robinson never saluted the flag or stood for the anthem, and he's still a hero. He's still an American hero. He was a veteran and all that stuff. He stood up in the army against racism and discrimination.
Court martial.
Yeah, and he beat it.
But he turned in his resignation. See, he had a hurt ankle from playing football, and he had gone through ROTC, so he waived that injury as a 4F injury. And since it would be an officer, it didn't matter. But when they court-martialed him, he said, screw you, I waive it. I revoke my waiver. So
right.
He resigned. That's how he got in the ball. He wasn't even a baseball player. He'd never played baseball, as a matter of fact. He was a football player and ran track. He was just a natural-born athlete.
That's something.
That's like Don Barksdale, who was on the same UCLA football team. He was wide receiver. He ran the high hurdles and he played football, but he was the first brother that got hired in NBA. The Lakers hired him. And then the quarterback on that same team was a guy named Kenny Washington at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams hired him, but they made him a halfback who would occasionally pass, and UCLA chickened out back in the 30s when white folk claimed they didn't want to have a black quarterback, so UCLA started calling their quarterback the tailback, and it's stuck ever since.
Wow. Well, I actually do. I like there's so much stuff going on, but I just like the black folks, our collective emotional state. Like, get back to Roseanne, the Roseanne Barr thing. You know, they saying that the person who's over the entertainment part of ABC is a black woman named her last name Dungy, and they give her credit for firing Roseanne. She's the one that hired, that okayed the show to come back on the air, and they're giving her the credit that she was the one that got rid of Roseanne. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't believe she's running anything. I don't believe she's running anything. Because if that's the case, they would let Bill Cosby have a network.
She's not. She's not. See, it's a game they run. And see, black folk out in Hollywood need to understand that they'll prop them up, and give everybody the impression that nobody breaks the code of silence. And they're really jacking them around. They're stealing their money, embezzling the money that's due and owed to black folk in that industry they use for other stuff. I'm still angry because so much of what CBS was supposed to pay me got funneled off to Paramount, also under Viacom, to finance these Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies.
Wow. I thought, man, it's like, these folks right there.
It's what it is.
So it's like an illusion. Everything is like an illusion there. It's like a mirage.
An illusion. They're going to go after everybody.